We're standing right in the middle of the road closure here, and it's really not that big of a road closure. That's the back end of it, and the front end is right over there. It's roughly 200 feet, not so big, but for the people living on that side of the road closure on the front end, it's a world of an inconvenience, and sometimes it's dangerous.
Here they line up, they move all the way over here where the salt truck right over here is right now, and you see the other truck coming up at the moment, and it's putting salt in the back of the truck, and that shed that's right to the left of it, there's about 50,000 tons of salt in there, so they're ready to go.
The house, it came down fast, but the trash, not so much. This home here on Corthell Street, it's causing a lot of problems. Neighbors say it has not been touched since it came down. And if you look really closely, those black little dots you're seeing under that tarp there, those are bugs. It's attracted hundreds of them, and they're flying on us too. A lock has been put on the suspect's gas meter, so I'm going to bend down and show you really quickly. It's right over here. It's a different kind of lock, not very common, that was put on the gas meter, so the gas cannot be turned on. I want to just have my photographer zoom in to the top of the hill there in Albany Med. You can see that white van. You see about 2 to 3 officers decked in gear with guns on them. This gate divides the property line. On that side is a school. On this side where I'm standing is where the shelter would be. He made it all the way down to Orlando, and before he just up and left the Albany County Courthouse, we were told that he had connections in other states. He was involved in that shooting from last night that happened here at the intersection of Quail and Sherman Streets, and right across the street is Albany Boxing. It's owned by the city of Albany, and we are told that the cameras that they have there, you see 2 of them. There's another one on the front of the building. It may have captured what had happened, but Albany police, they tell us they are not releasing any video or any other information at this time. Initially, Dawn was at St. Peter's every day, but she says a revolving door of psychiatrists left her with a doctor who seemed constantly distracted and disinterested. The Albany police chief says the officers acted within their training. They followed their training, and they even made decisions that kept everyone involved alive.
It's just after 6 p.m. in Gloversville, and a call comes in. It's an overdose. 2 officers jump into a squad car, Narcan, a potential lifesaver, in hand.
According to the caller, the female is not breathing.
Officers race out of their squad car and up the stairs. It takes about a minute to get to the scene.
There's no pulse.
They know they only have minutes. One officer races to put the gloves on before treating the patient.
Here now, we gave her 2 doses of Narcan.
But 2 doses is not enough.
Drag her out, drag her out, drag her out.
She's not breathing, and the clock's ticking.
Check her out. I am. Just give me a second, please.
The officers turn her on her side. She needs a 3rd dose of Narcan. Rips open the packaging. It's not the first time they've been here. If the needle on the floor is any indication, it may not be the last.
This sweater, how did this happen?
The officer begins pounding her on the back. It may seem extreme, but it might be the only way to revive her. And more needs to be done.
I need cold water, wet cloth. Get a towel, wet it.
She's starting to gain consciousness, but it's still not enough.
Okay. We're gonna need 1 more. Got it.
That will be her 4th Narcan dose this time.
How you doing, hon, over there? You getting that towel?
For the Gloversville Police Department, overdose calls have just become part of their everyday routine.
3400, have a possible overdose.
It's one of the major problems we're dealing with right now in the city.
Gloversville is light years away from its glory days of being the glove-making capital of the world. It's a ghost of its former self. Mix that with the poverty and crime, you've got a hotspot for overdoses.
Every time we respond to them, we're essentially finding a dead person.
Narcan has become the saving grace for this community, but it's only a Band-Aid.
But they're often going to the same person who's overdosed over and over again.
Clay says many wonder why they bother administering it to repeat offenders.
I would say to them, come to a scene of a fatality with us and explain that face to face with their family. You explain to the family that, well, this person should have just been left to die.
Yeah, bring you down to the ambulance.
No, I'm fine.
No,
you're going to the ambulance.
Go. Come on.
After an overdose happens, that's when Ginger Cato and her team come in.
We've saved a lot of lives.
The goal of the post-overdose follow-up? Trying to engage the person in treatment or at least a Narcan training. And there is a glimmer of hope. She's the director of the Rob Constantine Recovery Community and Outreach Center.
Anyone that answers the door is usually receptive to help. 50 to 75% someone opens the door.
As for the woman we saw in the middle of an overdose,
Got a good pulse. She's just hot.
she's going to be okay.
417.
She's breathing. And pulse. We're good.
They carry her down the stairs and onto a waiting stretcher. EMTs will take it from here.
You guys are awesome, man. Thank you.
This is Charlene Hunter today.
I am a mom. I have 2 wonderful children. I love going to church.
And this was Charlene Hunter 1 year ago.
They're taking me, witches! They got the cuffs on! They got the cuffs on, witches!
Stop fighting!
They got the cuffs on, witches!
Diagnosed with bipolar and struggling to find the right medication, Charlene was in and out of the hospital repeatedly. Hallucinations, paranoia, and violent outbursts brought Stillwater police to her apartment with involuntary transport orders a number of times, including this day.
If I show you the copy, you're going to be cool with us? We'll just walk down and go?
Nope.
Okay.
I am not walking out that door with
Okay.
a police officer right there.
I'll go get the order. You want to hang out
No,
for a
he's
sec?
not staying in this house with me. Do not leave me in this house
Need
with
to
this
relax.
man.
In Charlene's delusional state, even seeing the hospital order wasn't enough. She still refused to comply, and while her husband waited downstairs, things took an ugly turn.
He's got the taser out! He's tasing me! He's tasing me! He's got me! They really got the witch! They really got the witch! Somebody save the witch! Jesus Christ is here, you mother. Holy water.
Yo, you spit at me. I swear to fucking God.
They're dead. They dropped the cuff. They're dead. Oh, they're dead. I touched both of you with my Jesus spit. The snakes are coming right now.
Give me your fucking hand, dude.
Emma.
Put your hands behind your back now. I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you. Put your hands behind your back. Now. Now. Now.
Double door.
I remember, hearing the voices. I believed I was a witch, and that was scary in itself. And I remember the officer coming and them grabbing me, and there I just go flaring because I'm so afraid.
All I could hear was screaming, yelling, begging, pleading. And you're talking from a second-floor apartment all the way to the front, almost the next door. I just assumed that maybe she's just overreacting. My hope, what else do you think? My hope was that she's just screaming and yelling, not getting hurt.
Charlene doesn't remember a lot of what happened from here, including the officers and EMS carrying her head first, hands and feet restrained, down the narrow staircase of her second-floor apartment and leaving her on the sidewalk. Charlene's husband does remember the frightening episode and says these officers seemed focused on a quick resolution at any cost.
When it's not something that is an imminent danger, like somebody on a bridge or somebody standing on a ledge, there is time. They have all the time in the world. They get paid to spend their time helping us. And if they're not willing to spend their time helping us and they're in a rush, is not a good enough excuse for me to do their job improperly and to hurt somebody and to make matters worse.
Despite all she's been through, Charlene says she is stronger and healthier than ever. She now has several open investigations involving Stillwater Police, the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, and she's even filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. But she also has a message for the Stillwater police officers who responded that day.
I am sorry. I'm sorry that happened, and I'm sorry I acted that way. Just me as a person, I'm sorry, but I was not in the wrong. I was very vulnerable. I was not myself, and I had no clue which way was what at that time.
Picture by picture, Richard Emery takes us through the thruway bridge collapse.
And this is when it actually fell into the Schoharie.
A then 25-year-old Emery was a deputy with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. He worked in the department for just 4 years when the bridge went down.
And I was in the communications center of the Sheriff's Office when the call came in that the thruway bridge had collapsed.
He rushed to the scene and got his first glimpse of the disaster.
When I got there, reality set in, and when people started to say that there were vehicles that had gone off the bridge.
Emery says this picture captures what his view was like when he first arrived.
You always hold out hope that if someone was in a vehicle and maybe they got free, that they were able to maybe go with the current and eventually get to shore. But as the day progressed, it was clear that that wasn't the case.
The Schoharie Creek was flooded that day. These are pictures of some other bridges along the same creek.
Under normal conditions, the water is about 30 feet below this.
And the current was strong.
So you can see that the collapse occurred here. The first vehicle was found downstream to the north in this location. And there was one individual in that vehicle.
It made the recovery effort that much harder. For the first several hours after the collapse, Emery says they couldn't do much.
Other than just check along the shoreline to see if anybody had made it to the shore.
Decades have passed since the collapse, but certain memories still stick, and so do the emotions.
And you always think about the victims and their families, and that's the most important part.